Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings. I wanted to get this one out as soon as the previous video had finished uploading. This one, as you can read, an account on X, TheRealMenToo. Trinidad and Tobago. They're an island nation off the southeast part of South America. Have established a men's bureau to recognize the vulnerability of our boys and men. The government is committed to leaving no one behind and ensuring prosperity of all men and boys, not just women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are beginning to see the next wall being breached. There are many concentric walls. When you think about a fortification, it is like a matryoshka doll, I believe, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, where you open it up and it's a smaller, version of the same doll, and it keeps getting till it's, super tiny. Fortifications, fortification walls are built with the same, type of thought. You have the outer wall, the inner, the in between wall, the medium wall, the lesser wall, and the inner wall. A progression. Think of it as concentric circles that are all fit inside, you know, decreasing in size. The wedding cake analogy that they use in describing airspace, Class B and Class C airspace as being the upside down wedding cake. That's another example that of the reduction, the walls, the barriers. And for decades, men and boys have been told to just shut up. You're weak for calling it out, and how dare you for calling it out? And this deals with anything from women invading men's locker rooms to recently the Boy Scouts becoming the Scouts due to all the lawsuits to include girls. This is obscene. And then you have these whack jobs throwing temper tantrums. How dare you let these men in our bathrooms? You brought it on yourself. You've been invading men's bathrooms and locker rooms since the 70s and claiming, oh, it's for access. No, you're a pervert. Only a pervert goes into a man's locker room. Shut up, hang your head in shame, walk away. You're not going to win this one. And finally, Trinidad and Tobago are saying exactly that by establishing a men and boys bureau. This has to be addressed because this isn't the only example. There was another example that I've heard of recently, and it's not, part of it was President Trump in his Truth Social post, I believe it was yesterday, where he addressed that the boys and men dying in this war needs to end. There's been far too many, and that their lives are more valuable than that. And this comes hot on the heels of all the Ukrainian girls doing the party glitzy nonsense. Oh, wow, our fathers, our brothers, our uncles, our sons, our husbands are all dying, but we're skanky ass whores. Yeah, this is reached a tipping point. There is no stopping the pendulum swing as it goes back to normalcy. The 20th century, as I've often commented, maybe not on here, but in general, the progressive amendments, I'm talking, the prohibition, income tax, 21 and under voting, what was it, the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th amendments are all garbage and should be reconsidered. And maybe, we've already made an amendment getting rid of one of them. Perhaps it's time to do something with the rest of them. Before I get off tangent, this goes a long way. There has been way too many examples of violence against boys being justified. Whether it's teachers raping boys, getting pregnant by them, and then babysitters, teachers, taking those underage boys and mocking them in court. Well, he was man enough to get her pregnant. No, he was a victim then. He is a victim now. You're re-victimizing him a third time by mocking him, and you know, and a fourth time by placing him on a lifetime of debt to a child that, by all rights, number one, should be put up for adoption. Number two, if it's not to be adopted, it should be kept by the father. He is the victim, not the violent criminal, which in these cases is the babysitter and woman teacher. It's unacceptable. There's a big push at the Super Bowl. There were protests and have been subsequent protests calling out the hypocrisy of gender mutilation, circumcision being appalled by globally appalling, but they only look at it as about girls. They never look at it as the consequence of boys. They're like, nah, no big deal. The protests have been drawing attention to it. In addition, there's all of these believe all women. Ulysses Slaughter just last week put a video. Go to his YouTube account, Ulysses Slaughter, just the way it's normal spelling. 6 days ago, so as of today, that would have been about the 12th, the 14th. So he uploaded a Valentine's Day, being kicked out by troopers because his wife made a false allegation. These things have to stop, and hopefully these types of organizations, these engagements, these bureaus will develop an agenda that rebalances the scales, because what's been going on for the last century is just outright evil. Is not even an appropriate, it's so overused. With that, I'm going to segue into Vice President JD Vance speaking about needing to address this issue. On the other one was Governor Westmore in Maryland addressing this, that boys and men, and I've been openly saying that if the Democrats can successfully use this as a platform, if they can make tangible gains in reducing the suicide rates among boys and men, and developing a path that can, boys and men can be successful again, instead of being victims of false Title IX and false VAWA, VAWA, violence against women, which is nonsense. This trend has to stop, and we're finally getting something, done about it, perhaps. And it can only continue so long as my voice, Father X, Men Need to Be Heard, Legion of Men, Better Bachelor, Terrence Pop, whoever it is that you're listening to, and as long as you're, hearing these words and you're getting out there and informing your family, your coworkers, your neighbors, your community, your church, because until then, you're just going to have the faggots like Charlie X, or not Charlie X, Charlie Kirk 11, that fucking simp. You're going to have somebody like him writing in on the coattails being like, hey guys, just ignore the fact that I shamed you a month ago to be simps and buy your woman everything and do as she says, like a good boy. Yeah. Pat me on the head like a good boy. Yeah, that's not going to help anything. So let's get into JD Vance, the Vice President's words.
My message to young men is don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. It's our message, the cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, into, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.